America. And so I want to take just a moment because you got a little bit of a thimble about what we are about earlier. Let me just say about, gosh, I'd have to stop and add it up, but about 30 years ago, I was in a high school assembly where a principal asked a question. You may see the seed of the question I asked earlier. But a principal invited a speaker to our high school, and I was clued in before as pastor of a local church, so I rushed down and caught the fifth of the five assemblies and was greatly offended by what transpired. And that resulted in my mobilizing our church family and getting involved. You know, I'd been raised by a father who worked for 37 years for Sheffield Steel until they closed the plant. I worked there one summer, and God called me to go to college. I tell you, one summer at the steel mill was enough for me. But I was taught from an early age that two things you don't talk about in public is religion and politics. And what I discovered as an adult is that's the two things we ought to talk about the most. Because politics is the art of settling differences short of bullets. And no one's ever always right. And people do have differing opinions. And so I, from that point forward, began to preach and free our people to run for public office and to get involved in being salt and light in the culture. And that really is what precipitated this meeting tonight. I for the last 30 plus years, have been involved in encouraging pastors like John Greiner. But he needs no encouragement. I just need to put him on the road. He understands the importance of the church engaging, and that's why we were privileged to hold this assembly in this particular place. I want to encourage all of you to look into Recover America. You'll discover there that we offer 9 things that every Christian can do. People often say, well, what can I do? What can I do? 9 things we list. And one of the things we unashamedly advance, for $29 a month, that will empower us to educate one pastor in the course of a year and move him from just watching the culture to changing the culture. That's what our ministry is about. And I want to encourage you to consider looking at that and looking at what we are doing at recoveramerica.com. I want, with that word, to invite our last candidate up to come up, and we'll have an exchange. So if you'll come and join me on the platform. And I want to remind all of you now, in your program are all the ones that were invited who did not show up. And you can call them and ask them. They may have been involved in something else. But they were all invited, and invited not once but twice. This is Kristen Cobb, ballot position 1, position 5, and we welcome you to the stage. These are busy days for candidates, aren't they? There's a lot of places you can be. We may need to turn that one. Let's try this one. Hello? Try this one. Is there something we need to do down here? Okay, we got it. I was an evangelist for 14 years and preaching somewhere every night. It's kind of like running for office, so we understand the challenge you folks have. In 2 minutes, give us an opening statement and tell the folks here why you're running for the position you're running for.
My name is Kristin Cobb, and I'm running because I see a lot of opportunity in Klein ISD School District. I have 2 daughters that are in the district. I've had a stepson that graduated, and I've been from the district, and I've been interacting with this district for the last 16 years. During that time, I've interacted with the board and the superintendents, and some of the opportunities that I see for growth in Klein ISD include focusing on educating our kids, because with this huge loss in this shutdown that we had with the education of our kids, we've got 36% of our students right now that met grade level in writing, 42% in math, and 50% in reading. And so this is extremely significant, and what I'm seeing is a lot of focus on things that have nothing to do with educating our kids. We're focusing instead on solving the issues, the social issues of the world, which is a noble cause to be sure, but I think we all know that in schools in America, across the nation, that we're struggling to keep pace with the rest of the countries in the world. So until we're able to get a handle on educating our kids and focusing on making sure that our kids are graduating prepared for a future and prepared for success, then we can't be pursuing these other areas. These are things that should not be involved in our school system. Our parents should should be allowed to teach these moral foundations at home, and we should trust the parents to do that, and we should allow the teachers to do what they want to do in the classrooms and give them the tools and resources they need to focus on educating our kids, because that's what we're seeing a huge lack in, and that's where we can really improve a lot of what we see in the district. And beyond that, I see an entire lack of really paying attention to what the parents' needs and wants are in the district. We're not being listened to. When we go to the school board meetings, we're kind of ignored or pushed to the side, specifically with the CRT issues, which is, to me, a focus on race. We're seeing, a response that might look like something like, thank you for taking the time to point out all of these assignments that are totally focused on race. But there is no CRT in Klein ISD. Yes, thank you for presenting this equity resolution or this equity training to us, but no, there is no CRT in Klein. And so it's absolutely not true. And to be celebrating the fact that our district won National District of the Year when our students are performing the way that they are is just heartbreaking.
Thank you, Kristen. Would you define CRT? You spoke about it, but define it for the folks as you understand it.
So a CRT, again, it's using the term CRT just really ignites a lot of people and makes people immediately put up walls or say we need to have this focus on race, depending on what your viewpoints are. And to me, critical race theory, the best way to describe it is just a singular focus or a hyper focus on race and race-related issues. And it's to the point where you see that kids are coming home and saying, hey, Mom, do you know you're a racist? And, I had a friend of mine, he's, a Hispanic person, and he was told by his daughter that, you're a racist. And these are concepts that we're teaching our kids at school. And we don't need to be going backwards and starting to separate each other. If we want to focus on race, we do need to talk about the history that we have of segregation and racism in our country. But it needs to stop there. We need to not be bringing back division and segregation into our schools. My father was in the Navy, and he had to drink out of the colored water fountains. And he fought to make sure that these are things that we're not going to see today, to start seeing this resurgence of this division and just segregating each other based on something we have absolutely no control over is something we should not be doing in our schools at all.
Kristen, are you a person of faith? And if so, how does faith impact your decision making?
So I'm a person of faith, and the way I describe it to people is that I have what's called a biblical worldview, and what that means is that I don't separate the Word of God from my everyday decisions, like in business or from my personal life or from my volunteerism. These things, I use that foundation to make decisions and choices on, how I like to proceed in these different areas. So for me, the Bible is the inerrant Word of God. And I'm going to use the character and values that Jesus Christ teaches us and bring that into my position on the board. And the decisions that I make, I'm going to use that same foundation to minister to me on the decisions that I make in a school board.
Thank you. In your opinion, what are some of the crucial issues that the school district's facing that you want to address?
Well, I think I addressed a few of them. One of them is this loss of education that we've had. We've had a severe loss in education. I know that as a business owner, my business was shut down. And so while I was trying to save my business and get things going again, my daughters were at home having to self-monitor their schooling over Zoom. And that was a disaster. It didn't do well for any of us. And we can see that now that we took a STAR test to kind of get that, vision of and view of what exactly happened during that time to our children's education. So that's one of the main things that we need to be focusing on. And again, not listening to what the parents are bringing to the attention of the board is a huge deal. Moving these meetings, the school board meetings. I think the last one we had, they changed the location, so it was hard to find. I was late. The one before that, they moved the meeting time from 6 o'clock until 5 o'clock. So if you think about, the fact that the first part of the school board meeting is when the parents get that 2 minutes to speak, the fact that you're going to move this meeting to 5 p.m. Means that whoever is getting off of work and driving to come and have that time to speak to the board and talk about what they want to see done in the district or complaints, they don't have that opportunity because they're coming from work. We all work, and we have we have other things to do besides chase down a school board meeting. So what that says to me is that the school boards don't want to hear from us. And in the way that we get a response from them, it's, just a brushing you aside. And so all of this stuff needs to change. There are some huge budgetary, concerns. I think a lot of us know that some of these organizations like the Holsworth Center are, places that will train our teachers to come back and instead of teaching our teachers and giving them the tools to help our kids get back on track, what they're really doing is just teaching them how to come back and bring this, cultural responsiveness focus into the classroom where, this is not what the teachers need to be added onto their plate when their kids are already, and they know how far behind these kids are. And this is something that teachers have never had to deal with before. So if we could look at just some of those issues, I think we could make a huge impact on Klein ISD. And that's where I see that major opportunity that we have to make a huge difference and bring Klein, to a place that we can be, not worried about these things.
If a parent who had a real issue got off work at 5, got caught in the traffic of Houston, got to the school board just as they were closing, parental involvement, and they just lost their cool. People do that. Would that be a role for the FBI to investigate? Should we call in the federal law enforcement agency to investigate to see if that person is a terrorist because they were angry and mad at a school board meeting?
Absolutely not. And let's talk about that a little bit here, okay? Because I know that I've seen that Texas has pulled away from the National Association of School Boards, and rightfully so, because they're calling down the FBI on these parents to really just, insulate the school board who's already voting in unison from the parents. And that's absolutely inappropriate. That is not their role. So the Texas Association of School Boards is doing the same type of things. They just sent out a letter that asked for increased police presence at these school board meetings. But I don't know about you, but if you watch these viral videos, I see parents being forced out when they're trying to speak about the things that are going on with their children's assignments and the struggles that their children are having. I haven't seen viral videos of school board members being attacked.
Thank you. Who are some of the groups or group that has endorsed you?
Okay, Texas Conservative Party, the Harris County Republican Party, the Conservative Coalition of Harris County, Gail Stanart, our former Harris County Clerk is Stan Stanart. I have some police officers, some of my friends and family that are supporting my run that have also endorsed me, but mainly conservative groups and individuals.
Thank you. Do you... I said vacillate, either applaud or not to. Let me ask you this question. Do you embrace and are you in favor of the legislation which Governor Abbott just recently signed, the heartbeat bill? Are you in favor of that?
I'm actually so proud that Texas was one of the leaders in this initiative, and I do believe in that life is created in that spark of conception, and so to have that protection is something that I am really grateful that Texas took a stand on.
Thank you. Mask mandates, are you in favor of imposing those as a school board member? Would you impose mask mandates?
So one of the things that I love about America is the freedoms that we all have. And so I am absolutely against mandates, and that's because of the freedom that we have or should have without government overreach. And, these school boards are governmental entities, and that overreach in a mandate is, I think, inappropriate for our schools. This is where parents need to be able to make that decision. So, if you feel like that a mask and a vaccine works, then please, by all means, wear a mask and get a vaccine. I'm not going to criticize you for that. But because we're in America, this is the land of the free. I would like to keep my freedoms, and I would like all of our students at Klein to keep those same freedoms as well.
Thank you. Which of the two major parties best represents your views? Which do you identify with the closest?
As long as the Republican Party is supporting Judeo-Christian values, then that will be the party that I align most closely with.
And finally, take 1 minute and make your final appeal for those who could vote for you. Why do you want to be elected to this position, and what are the final things that you'd like to say?
So with a lot of the corruption that we see in some of these organizations like TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards, and the way that we're seeing the current board voting in unison on every single issue, I believe that these lobbyist groups are where this training is coming from, to be told that as a school board member you need to vote as a group. I absolutely disagree with that, and one of the main things that I would like people to consider in this race is that we need to be voting in people that have a firm foundation that's built on the rock, because these organizations are deceptive, and if you don't have that foundation, you're going to fall for anything that sounds good at the time. So that is one thing you need to absolutely consider when you're voting for these people in this particular election. And number two, the amount of opportunity and the issues that I have identified that are going on with the Klein district. I have a plan. I have, the first role is the first thing you should do is just identify, what the issues are so that you can address them. And so one of the things that we really need to address is these performance levels in our academics, which we don't see the current board addressing. And so just ignoring these things doesn't make them go away. We need to focus on them so that we can make a difference. And like I said, I've identified these areas, and I'm ready to get in there and make a big impact to better our district.
Let's give her a hand, shall we?